Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Feel Your Soul podcast. I am your host, Amanda Kae, along with Bree and today we are super excited to talk to you about the endocrine system. We are going to be talking about the anatomy, how it works, its functions, what we can do in the zone as foot zoners, as well as, you've got it, the essential oils and the emotions. Let's go ahead and let's get started. All right, sweet Breezy. Hello, hello.
Well, hello, Amanda Kae. You ready for today's episode?
You know what? I'm so ready. Ready or
love
not,
this.
here we come.
I know. And this episode, with the endocrine system, I love it because we're going to be able to present kind of a really fun technique to everyone. And I think you guys are going to really enjoy this. We've been brainstorming this for a couple weeks now, and I think we got it ready to present. And
Yes.
how do you feel about, honest answer, how do you feel about hormones and the endocrine system? What's kind of your overall feeling about it?
Honestly, before I started to dive deep into the endocrine system, I really didn't know how important it really was for our body.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And as I started instructing and really wanting to give my students more, as I started to dive deep, I was like, oh, my stars and stripes. Like, there are so much information on the endocrine system, but it also helped me answer a lot of questions that I had with my own body and I had
Absolutely
going on. And I'm just going to say, let's just face it, friends, I am not a spring chicken. And I things are happening, right?
Yeah.
And
Changes. There are things
changes.
changing.
Yes, right. And it's really great to know how I can help myself, but also I wanted something that I could help my students, but I wanted to be able to also help my clients with my knowledge and my understanding. So, when Bree and I started talking about this and how we created, and we'll talk about this whole endocrine chase that we came up with and this whole strategy, it really just makes sense. And the more I do it on my clients and the more that I teach this, it's like, oh, wow. Like, I just kind of want to go down a little bit more of a rabbit hole with it.
Yes.
What are your thoughts, Bree?
Well, and I completely agree with that. It's coming from my experience, hormones are frustrating as all get out. But that's because of my own personal health issues and stuff. And the thing to understand about hormones is they're extremely interconnected and interdependent on each other. And so oftentimes, when we go to like the medical doctors or whatnot, and it's like one hormone is out or is not functioning optimally, 5 other ones struggle as well, and so that's what the intent of this, what we've come to call the endocrine chase, is all about, is connecting them and the pathways that they travel together. And so we have these 7 main glands, and it's figuring out how they talk to each other. So we could go really in depth to try to figure out all of the hormones and what each one of them does, which is great. But overall, we just need to understand the function of how they communicate, is my personal opinion.
I agree. I 100% agree, because the communication is the most important thing.
Yes.
And I know I said this in the one episode, but I just wanted to just make sure that you guys understand the nervous system travels at like a quick, fast speed.
Exactly.
The endocrine system also communicates. It just communicates a little bit differently, and it travels through the blood. Is that correct, Bree?
That is. And I loved how you had explained this on the nervous system. It was like, then the nervous system is like an immediate quick phone call, like, here's the message, get it. Versus with the hormones and the endocrine system, it's like a bike messenger, right? And so, but the thing to know about this is once the message is sent, it will get delivered. It's just delayed on a time schedule. And so, we get these messages and these inputs from our brain being like, hey, the thyroid is not functioning well, or send more thyroid stimulating hormone or something called TSH. But then even if it's delayed on time, the message will eventually come, but it's not always as accurate, right? It's not that immediate understanding of what's going on there. And so you got to remember that we're especially women, we are a cycle being, like we're on this longer cycle than men. Men are on a 24-hour cycle, women are on a 28 to 30-day cycle. And so this is something that we talked about in the reproductive system of really learning how to track kind of your hormones and your symptoms and everything. And so, on top of all the complicated things that the endocrine system does and the communication system, we also have to remember that timing is everything. Timing during the day on our hormones, timing during the cycle of our month and what's going on, and also timing as to what's been going on in our world over the past couple weeks. Because if it's been a really stressful week, those hormones are going to be skewed.
Right. Right.
So, couple things to consider, and we don't want to overwhelm you guys with all of this stuff. So, the way we decided to kind of present it was the seven main glands in the body, in connection to like the seven main chakras, right? Because we already
Yes.
work with the chakras all the time. We'll give you a few tips and tricks of what they maybe should feel like, those glands in general, and then a couple common hormones, and then how we like to see them connect and what
Yes.
that pathway should be like. That's kind of my game plan. Does that sound good for you?
Yes, I
Okay.
absolutely love it. One thing I also want to mention as zoners, what we can also do is how we can help the body is yes, we can move those signals and we can help that by doing the chase and
Hmm.
releasing, but we also are really good at talking to the body as we're on the feet.
Yes.
So we don't just have to, focus. I mean, we're focusing on the endocrine system and sending that message, but we also can talk to that nerve, the nerves
Yes.
connected. We also can talk to the body itself and the body's energy and the chakras to help all of these messages go a little bit quicker. And
Yes.
that I think is our job as zoners because we know how to do those things. Our
Hmm.
client may not.
Exactly. And another thing to kind of remember is, so a hormone is a chemical messenger, right? And so we have the gland. So this is just some basic terminology. We have the gland is what, the organ in the body that produces these chemicals, but they also have messengers of the hormones, but then we also have receptor sites in the body. And so it's important to know where the hormone is coming from, but also where the hormone is ending up, because sometimes there's miscommunication from the actual gland, right? Maybe it's a miscommunication there or it's not working, but it could also be a lack of communication on the receptor site. And so we got to
Right.
kind of figure out where it ends up, because that's going to help us to kind of know where it's getting misread or misunderstood. So, for example, I struggle with, I've had some female hormone issues and stuff, and I did a weight loss surgery here last year because my messengers, my hormones were getting misread during like fat cells and stuff. So extra body fat can cause the how would I say that? The messages
The
to be
messages.
misread, right? Or
Yes.
misinterpreted. And so that's why I did the weight loss surgery, is hoping that it could help my ovulation hormones kick on, right?
Right.
And it helped a little bit. And so that was worth it for me. But that's kind of our ultimate goal, is to remember like that it could be the actual message, it could be the delivery process, or it could be the receptor site that can all be off. So
Right.
we just want to do that's why the zone is so beneficial, is because it's the whole body is getting reset,
Right.
versus you go to a doctor and they're not going to always address those things.
Right. Well, and I love that because as you see this, I've seen a couple of videos and I really liked the analogy. It's like the messengers or the messengers that are coming back down into the receptor site. If you
Hmm.
can think of like keys, you guys,
Yes.
if you can think of keys floating through the body, they're just waiting to go to the correct door to go through
Yes.
that door. But if they hit the wrong door and it's not the right message, right, for that
Hmm.
particular receiving site, it's hitting and then continues to float. And
Yes.
Bree, if you correct me if I'm wrong, that's what your body was doing,
Hmm.
is the message they were miscued, and so it was kept sending these messages, but they kept hitting the wrong doors because it wasn't the
Exactly.
correct keys. If that makes
Exactly.
sense. I don't know if I just made you more
No, I
uh
think that's exactly it. And sometimes those keys get damaged, and so then it doesn't work anymore, like,
right,
and so that's what we're working on here. So I even have a hormone issue where I don't have the receptor sites for cholesterol. And cholesterol is, fat and all this stuff, and it's needed for hormone communication. And I don't have the receptor site to absorb cholesterol. And that's a genetic mutation that my family has. And so, all of this ties together, and this is what the big picture is of all of this, talking about the messengers and messages and how the keys fit and everything, is to help you to see that it's the whole body is interconnected, right? And so that's
Correct.
the point of our chase, is we're going to be passing through the gland, the pathways, and the receptor site, not just the individual hormone. We want to go all throughout the body because that's how it's going to be going. So
Right.
hopefully that ties it all together, is kind of our intention behind that.
Yes. Love it.
So if we were to think about the chakras, let's just do a quick review on that. The chakras go from the base of the spine, starting in the root chakra, and they flow up into the body. We think
Up,
of
up,
them
up,
like
up,
a
up, up.
pool that just flows into the next one, right?
Right.
Um, with a endocrine gland, we start at the top of the head and we flow down, but each one is assigned a chakra.
Correct.
So let's kind of, if you'll take chakras for me and I'll take the
Perfect.
gland,
I love it.
let's start at the top. And
Okay.
so I'm going to start at the pituitary, excuse me, I'm going to start at the pineal gland. So I'm
Okay.
going to start at
Perfect.
the pineal gland, you start at the crown chakra, and let's kind of just talk about how they connect, if that works for you.
Absolutely. I love
Okay.
that.
I love it. So, the pineal gland, when it comes to hormones, is actually our most simple gland because it creates melatonin. That's going to be our main hormone that it creates, is melatonin. And melatonin helps to regulate sleep. So, we've all heard things about like screen time, and the blue light and all that stuff is going to cause problems when it comes to like activating and triggering some melatonin in our bodies. So when we're working on that pineal gland, it's so small, so small towards the back of the brain. What I'm thinking here, and my intention, is to regulate sleep, but also to help um to help it to become more sensitive to darkness, right? Because we're surrounded by bright lights nowadays with our phones and our screens. And so I'm trying to help this one to be a little bit more sensitive, so that when the melatonin starts to create, then the body actually responds better to it. That's going to be kind of the pineal gland for you.
Okay. So what I love about the pineal gland is that it is actually connected to our crown chakra,
Yes.
right? And the crown is one of my favorites. I'm just wanting to get my facts straight here
Yeah.
because
And
I
while you're pulling that up, I'll kind of go through this a little bit more of,
perfect. I
I
love it.
love the spirituality of the pineal gland. That's going to be kind of your thing that to think about here, is think about sleep and spirituality and kind of link those ones together. Now, people sometimes confuse spirituality and religion, and those kind of get blended. And you can be spiritual and religious. You can be spiritual and not religious. It doesn't matter. It's more so your relationship with your higher power. And if you're not spiritual in the sense of a deity, your higher power can be your highest self. And so that's kind of where we're going there. So think pineal, sleep, melatonin, and spirituality, and your connection to your higher power. And there's just something really fantastic about sleep and spiritual gifts and how God communicates and all that stuff. I just love kind of the parallels between that.
Yes. And we could go real crazy deep into this, but you have to remember we do have our chakra
We do.
podcast. So Bree, I love that. It's all about spirituality, enlightenment, our consciousness, right?
Hmm.
Our life's purpose, all of those kinds of things. And it really is one of those, like Bree said, with the sleep and different things like that. So if our sleep is out of whack, we need to make sure that we're looking at that crown chakra. Um, its element is thought, right? And it
Hmm.
deals with the pure cosmic energy, which is exactly what Bree was talking about, surrendering to that higher power or whatever that may be for you.
And the vibrations that we talk about of like better sleep and all that stuff, you can use those same words that you just described all of the chakra stuff about, in connection to like the endocrine system as well. As especially as we get through this, you're going to start to see, to all of our listeners out there, you're going to start to see that there's a parallel between all of these, and the function and the outcome and the purpose of what it does. It's all very, very connected.
Very,
So
very
then
connected.
our next one is going to be the pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland is the gland of our body that's going to be the most important here. It's known as the master gland. It is the one that tells the other glands to function, and it sends messengers throughout the body to make sure that everything is receiving and getting the messages right. So I think of the pituitary as like the master gland of the mortal body, and of if this pineal gland is the spiritual body, the pituitary is the mortal body. And we want those to communicate well, but know that the pituitary is going to talk to all of the glands in one way or another.
Right. And so this also is known as the brow chakra
Hmm.
or the third eye chakra,
Yes.
right? And this one is one a lot like Bree was saying, it's all about the awareness, right?
Yes.
It's all about our mental mind, our vision, all of those kinds of things. This is when we start truly finding ourselves in the world, right? It's
Mhm.
all about light and insight, and unity and connection. Exactly what Bree said. It's all about that connection to the pineal gland. It's
Yeah.
and speaking to the rest of these glands throughout the body. So it's a beautiful one for sure.
Definitely. And the main hormones you're going to get there are often things like follicle stimulating hormone or luteinizing hormone or pituitary like growth hormone. There's so many on here, thyroid stimulating hormone. So the job is to go throughout the body and to deliver these messages and to help stimulate them so that they function right. And isn't that just so beautiful as a parallel as to like the mortal experience, like it's meant to relay information and receive information and communicate and help the body to do its just best job. And so when I'm thinking of this, I'm thinking of, these people are here having a mortal experience and we want the body to function at its best. And this is where we start at for that.
Absolutely.
So
Amazing.
then right next to it is the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus doesn't have a chakra connected to it, but it's important on the zone because it is the relay center. The thalamus and the hypothalamus are the relay center into the pituitary. So if the pineal is the spiritual body, the pituitary is the physical body, the hypothalamus and the thalamus are the relay center that are going to
Mhm.
help to send the right messages in the right place. So when you're doing the zone, it will go hypothalamus into the pituitary, pituitary into the hypothalamus. So those two are thought of as kind of the same place and really important
Correct.
on the zone for that.
Yes, they really work hand in hand with each other, right?
Yes. And then if we go on down into the next gland, that's going to be down into our throat. And this is going to be the thyroid gland. The thyroid is really important for helping regulate your metabolism. It also helps with like calcium absorption, helps to make sure that you're absorbing the right minerals. But you're going to really see this when it comes to development and your energy. So when low thyroid hormones, you're going to be more fatigued, more brittle hair, things like that. And the gland that communicates directly to it are the hypothalamus and the pituitary. And so those are going to be kind of those two that link right there.
So, and this one with the thyroid is the throat
Mhm.
chakra, right?
Yes.
And this one is all about the communication, expressing, longing to have an opinion. Why is this important? Because a lot of the times we're not using our voice, and our
Yes.
thyroid gland is affected by this because we're either not expressing ourselves the way that we should, or we're swallowing,
Hmm.
right? We're swallowing our words and not using that. And I don't know about you, Brie, but I find that this one is a lot, it's out of whack a lot on people,
Yeah.
not just the throat chakra, but a lot of people really struggle with the thyroid.
Yes.
And I do believe that a lot of it has to do with lack of being able to express themselves the way that they would like to express themselves.
I agree. I agree. I think it's part of the human experience is learning to have, because along with voice comes identity, and so
Correct.
we're here to manage our identity, our voice, and there's so much of like Buddhist beliefs and teachings that talk about, a word once spoken can never be taken back. And that's so symbolic of the mortal experience as well, of being so mindful of our voice, but learning our voice, learning what our voice has to say in this world.
Right, right. Well, because it's all about that personal freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our voice is our
Mm-hmm.
personal freedom of expression. And
Yes.
exactly what you said, it really is so important. That's why I believe that we we teach, our young children at such an early age how to communicate.
Yeah, it is.
We really
And
encourage that.
to speak their voice and to help them to understand that, and the thyroid is gonna, it's gonna help really the body to function very well. And so it's often, or it's not often, that if someone is having a hormone issue, that the thyroid is not out of balance, like
Right.
the thyroid gets fatigued easily through, the adrenal issues or pancreas or ovary issues. The thyroid is often affected, and I think that's symbolic of, other things too. If you're struggling with other parts of your life, and oftentimes the voice gets affected very easily too. So
Yeah,
when it
for
comes
sure.
to this chase, the pathway would go pituitary, hypothalamus, thyroid, parathyroid. Parathyroid sits around the thyroid as well. So don't forget to do the parathyroid signal. And then we would reverse that. So it'd go thyroid slash parathyroid, hypothalamus, pituitary. And that's going to be that pathway that it all connects.
Beautiful. And don't forget, you guys, the parathyroid is all about the calcium. And it's
Yes.
super important. That's why we want to make sure that we hit that.
Yes, absorbing calcium, production, all of that, really important for making sure that we have strong bones. All of that is really going to be important on the
Yes.
parathyroid. And so that's going to be kind of that balance here. And remember, guys, we're giving you a very superficial surface level of hormones. There's
Yes.
a lot to study here if you want to dive deep into this.
Yes. Yes, there is.
hmm So the next gland often gets missed. It's called the thymus gland. The thymus gland sits right next to your heart, right behind your heart here. And it's all about your immune system, especially your immune system as a child and young adult, young teenager, because this is going to be where we develop like our fighter cells and defense mechanisms and our immune response. And we really need those experiences and exposure to germs and all these different things as a child. And so it creates this foundation of how we're going to respond as an adult, with our immune system, everything. So oftentimes it gets missed because medical world would tell us it's not super active as an adult, but there's been a lot of evidence showing that it is very, very needed for, helping us through our adult life and how we respond to immune stuff. So the main one is going to be just thymus hormones here, and that's pathway is going to go thymus, hypothalamus, pituitary, pituitary, hypothalamus, thalamus, thymus. Excuse me. That's a lot of thou sounds. So
That is.
pituitary, hypothalamus to thymus, and kind of how those connect here.
So just a little tidbit of information. It is actually connected to a chakra. It's actually connected to the soul star chakra, which
hmm
sits just right above the head. I won't go into depth with that, but it is connected to a chakra there. And it
What
really is
about
what it
what about
connects,
the
and it
heart
feeds our soul.
chakra? Does it connect to the heart chakra as well
There,
with love?
so it can, but there we have a
Upper one.
upper heart, and then the heart
hmm
chakra. So
Okay.
it can, but the reason why, and this you could correct me if I'm wrong, but
No,
the
please. I
reason
like
why
this.
with the soul star is because it absolutely, like, it lets that light come in, and it's the communication down, straight down, right into that higher heart there. And
Mm,
it's what feeds our soul. That is
okay.
what goes in to feed our soul. That's why it's so important for that immunity and that immune system. Because if our
Okay.
immune system is down, and we're kind of shutting down with our immune system, right? Our soul has a hard time being fed.
That makes sense. Is it because we don't really have a signal for the soul chakra other than just, above the big toe there, but is that okay to still access it through the heart chakra or the heart
Absolutely.
signal and still
Absolutely.
anchor it through there? Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. It's all just, again, it's all about that intention. And also you can anchor it in, you can also anchor it in up in the
Up
crown
top.
as well.
Up above the
And
crown.
you do, because you're doing the
You're
chase.
doing that. Yeah. And that's where, remember with this chase, so I told you it would pituitary hypothalamus, excuse me, pituitary hypothalamus, thymus, and then reverse that. But if it's ever has any emotional issues in it, you're going to just clear it through the chakra as well. And so you're gonna either anchor it onto the heart chakra or you're gonna open up that heart chakra and then go do the hormones. And you had Madge, you had an interesting experience with this just the other day, didn't you, of how it opened after you went and cleared one of the
Yes.
chakras? Is that what
Yes.
tell us what happened on that?
Yes. So it was super interesting. As I was working on my client, what I noticed was, the first thing I noticed was that the throat was super sore.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, something's going on here, but it didn't feel like throat related. But then once, like as far as like sore throat
Sore throat,
is what I
physical
mean,
sore throat.
physical sore throat. And so I just kind of like put that like, okay, I'm gonna bank that right here for a minute. And then when I got to the bottom of the foot and I was working on the pituitary, I
Hmm.
noticed that the pituitary was super sore. Then I went to the pineal and
Yep.
I'm doing, the little rainbow connection is what I call it. And she was
Yep.
like, that is so sore. And
Hmm.
I said, oh, and so then I drilled that hypothalamus and she was like, that is really, really sore. But what was interesting was we really didn't notice that that hypothalamus was sore when I was going up the brainstem and doing my stuff, right? It was actually not until I hit that pineal gland. And once I did that, it was like, ooh. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this chase. So I started doing the chase that we're talking about, and I started working all the way down. And what I noticed was every single gland was really, really sore and out of whack per se.
Hmm.
Even the adrenals were a little sore, not as bad, but they were sore. And then also the pancreas was sore as well.
Hmm.
Um, and then the blood supply to the ovaries, which we'll get down to that. And so I immediately was like, we've got an endocrine, like the messages,
Imbalance there.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
something's off.
And so I really worked that good. And I went back to the foot after I worked that endocrine chase. And then I did the chakra balance again and really felt. And what was super interesting is, I don't know about you, Bree, but I feel a heartbeat
Hmm.
in
When
in
it
the chakra
balances.
centers. But
Yeah.
what was super interesting was when I first put my finger on the root and I held it there for a second, heartbeat. Then I
Mhm.
moved, to the sacral. Then I moved and I kept moving up. And each point I got a heartbeat, which was
Yeah.
super interesting because I did the endocrine chase on both feet before I went back and rebalanced and made sure my chakras were there. But the second I did that, then I went back through and I said, I just want to see, let me know how this feels to you.
Hmm.
And where before she was like pulling her foot like this because it hurt her so bad, she was like, oh, wow. She's like, it is like I can feel it, but it is not like she wasn't jerking anymore.
Hmm.
And it was like the whole endocrine system did a quick like reset. It was almost kind of like, okay, I've received the messages. I know what to do.
Yes.
And I love that the chakras, the energies from the chakras were also helping that move.
Because they do work hand in hand. They support each other, and it's like when that chakra energy starts to get bogged down, we clear that, and then we clear the endocrine glands, and it just frees up that energy, and it starts to flow very quickly and very
Very quickly.
easily.
Yes,
See,
yes.
I love that. I love that because it just goes to show like there's a benefit in obviously following our signals the way we teach you to do it, but there's also a benefit in having higher intention of knowing how they flow and communicate because you can get it to do it more efficiently and more effectively.
Right, right. And
I
really, it
love
was
it.
just they needed to talk to one another.
Yes,
There's a blockage. And so, say you've
somewhere.
got that throat blockage,
Mm-hmm.
it's really that communication's not, it's not going up nor down
Yeah.
in the chakras nor the endocrine system. That's why
Yes.
they really work together.
Yes. And so then being able to we don't always know which direction it's blocked, is it
Right.
endocrine, is it chakra, is it structural, are they sick? Like what is
Yeah.
it? So that's why we do all of these and we cover each of it. And then the body knows what to do.
Right.
So
Isn't
I
that
love
so
that.
cool? Our
It
body just
is.
knows. And I
Yep.
love that so much. Yes.
And remember, it's there's something to be said about thinking with your heart and that higher connection to that soul star and everything. The I just think there's an interesting parallel there, and I'm not going to say too much about it, but childhood beliefs and patterns and developing that thymus here in the chest and our heart and trusting it, and there's just an interesting parallel there that I'll just kind of plant a seed for you guys to discover.
Yes. That's beautiful. Yep. Love it.
Our next gland is going to be the pancreas. So the pancreas is going to be a gland that we do not want to mess with. The
No.
pancreas is very, very important because it's going to help to regulate our blood sugars. It helps. We have two main hormones. We have insulin and then we have glucagon. Insulin helps to stimulate, blood sugar absorption. It's one of those special keys, a very, very specific key that unlocks those receptor sites. And then glucagon helps to break down, the stored version of blood sugar and stuff. And so we really want that to help communicate with for glucogen. Like there's a very impressive process that happens with our sugars. And emotionally, we deal with a lot of things that deal with like finding the sweetness of life and finding that sweetness and uh bitterness tends to store there, things like that. And so physically, it's not one to mess with, but it's also emotionally, I think, a very mortal human experience as well with that.
Yes, and this one is all about the solar plexus.
Yeah.
And like Bree said, it is one that we don't want to mess with. And the solar plexus is all about digestion, right? Whether
Hmm.
it's physical digestion, emotional digestion. Are we digesting our emotions or are we storing them?
Yes.
Spiritual digestion, mental digestion, right? And it deals a lot with our willpower,
Mhm.
thinking, fatigue and self-doubt. Some of those things play a really important role here. And so like Bree said, like that sweetness of life, you know, where are you at with that?
Yes.
Because it's really important, to step into that willpower and knowing that you've got this and life is beautiful. I think that's why this one is one of my favorites, is because the color is yellow and
Yeah.
I love sunshine. And
Yes.
I think of that like when you are in the sunshine, how do you feel? Do you feel light and energetic and able to move and flow, right? Like, so for
Hmm.
me, the solar plexus is, I mean, they're all beautiful chakras, but the yellow just really, um, I don't know, I just feel it really opening when I see the color yellow. That's just
It's a
makes things feel,
very receptive chakra
yes,
and gland. Like it really
right.
is. And when you think of oftentimes the number one thing that people have a willpower problem with, it's sugar,
Correct.
and
Guilty as charged
yeah,
right here.
me too. And someone who becomes insulin resistant, their keys to unlock those cells so that insulin is absorbed it becomes damaged. Those receptor sites and those keys don't work right. And so
Yeah.
you're resistant to that insulin and that hormone. And this is just the belief of Brie, but I think there are people who are joy resistant, and we
Yeah.
have this dopamine fix and we have all this stuff and we crave it. And so then we flush our bodies with sugar to get that fix and that high. And there's just a lot there to balance for sure.
I agree. 100%. I agree. Yep.
Our next one is going to be the ovaries for the females and the testes for the men. This is going to be down in our pelvic region, and these are going to be primarily our sex hormones. So, progesterone and estrogen, testosterone for the males. And this is all going to be about helping to sustain life and create that. It's also going to be help to prepare for it and any type of like maternal, paternal relationships are going to store here. This is also where we see a lot of generational things start to show up here. But the main hormones here Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't clarify the pathway for the pancreas, but if
Oh,
you haven't
yes.
picked up on the pattern yet, it just goes pituitary, hypothalamus, pancreas. So it's the two centers in the brain and then down to the organ and then reverse it. And so we want to do that with the pancreas. And then here's the same thing: pituitary, hypothalamus, ovaries, and then reverse that: ovaries, hypothalamus, pituitary, or testes, whichever one it is. And so
Right.
that's going to deal with a lot of your cycle, and these go up and down and change all the time.
This one is our sacral chakra.
Yes.
And I love this one as well, because this one is all about creation,
Hmm.
right? It's all about creation and that creativity. It's one where, um, like our identity, our connection, self-worth, all of those amazing things like are located. And it really is just a yummy thing, right? It can be, um, it can be about pleasure. It definitely can
Yes,
be. It is our sacral chakra. Um, and it is those things. So on a sexual note, you can look at the pleasure on it, on a every day to day, like what brings you pleasure in your every day to day life? What brings you that happiness? What brings you
hmm
those kinds of things? And that's what you need to, you think about at that time. So, you know, um, it's all about pleasure, and a lot of the time we find that it's blocked with guilt.
it is. And along with that, those lines of pleasure, just like the pancreas can kind of swing out of balance when it comes to like the willpower and we crave the sugar, the reproductive organs can swing out of balance when it comes to pleasure. And so the key to both of these in my mind is a true connection between partners, or a true connection with ourselves, and feeling that pleasure, but we're creating it. We're not there
Correct.
to to make it go one direction or another on like intensity of, how am I saying that right? Of, we don't want it to be non-committal as much as possible, because that's truly the core of the ovaries and the testes and that sacral chakra. Is it's all about connecting and creating,
That
intentionally doing it as much as
intentionally,
possible.
that right there is the word right there, intentionally.
Intentionally. Yep,
It's
I
true.
totally think so.
Yes.
Um,
Beautiful.
but crucial, like crucial to our foundation. If we were to reverse these chakras, it goes root, then sacral. So it's part of our foundation as a human, and very, very important.
Absolutely.
And then our last gland to talk about is our adrenal gland. And our adrenal gland is going to be highly linked with, our get up and go hormones. So our cortisol, which is often known as our stress hormone, aldosterone, which is part of our sex hormones, epinephrine, norepinephrine. And so it's all about survival, like when that fight or flight gland or fight or flight nerve gets triggered, uh, the adrenal is one of our biggest ones. But our adrenal gland also gets triggered when it comes to, are we eating right? Are we sleeping right? And our adrenal gland loves routine, loves routine. It loves to wake up at the same time, go to sleep at the same time. It loves to eat consistently every 2 to 3 hours. And when we start to fast, cortisol starts to get released. And these glands, these two glands that sit on top of the kidneys here, they communicate very quickly and very, very loudly on some people. And so my advice here when it comes to the adrenal glands is you often just need to support them and help them to communicate more efficiently by setting that intention when you work on them.
Yes. Beautifully said, Bree. I want to just add as far as the chakra goes, it is the root chakra.
Hmm.
Um, and this one is all about survival.
Yes.
Sometimes can be blocked by fear. Stepping out of the fear and feeling secure will help that chakra open. A lot of the times when we're in fear, that's when those adrenals will, I mean, that they it's a fight or flight response,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And so we really want to see, like, are we safe? Are we, are we protected? Where are we at as far as that goes? We also want to make sure that we are feeling stable
Yes.
and feeling grounded.
Yes.
The adrenals like to feel grounded. They don't, they, when they're not feeling grounded, they know it. And like Bree said, they are very loud and will send some alerts out because that's their job.
Yep, it is. It's their it's our warning system, you
Yep.
know, like the tiger's chasing us, and that's
Yep.
in our primitive DNA. That's going to be our survival is key,
Yep.
and all the other ones will get kind of turned down.
Yep.
And so we have to have the adrenals balanced in order for the other ones to communicate at their top level,
Yeah.
for
This one kind
sure.
of reminds me of like the check engine light
Yes,
on your car. Like when this one comes on, it's like, okay,
something's off.
you
Mm-hmm.
better pay attention.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
A lot of there are, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are some doctors that don't really look into adrenal fatigue and
Yeah.
adrenal problems, but it really is a thing.
It
And
is.
it's super important to really take care of these two adrenals because I don't know if people really understand how important
I know.
they
And
really
I'm
are to our
I've
body and our endocrine system.
I've been guilty of neglecting it. You know, I pushed myself really, really hard in my 20s and I don't regret that, but I burned I burned both ends of the candle on it, you know, like and I
Hmm.
became so resistant to not resistant. I guess I became very reliant on those stress hormones to get me through things, you know, and I would supplement and so try to support them with caffeine, right? That I needed
Yeah.
it to get going. And when that happens, it just stresses those adrenal glands even more. So it can be a process to heal them. It really can, but it's kind of the place to start when it comes to the endocrine system is start there at the adrenal glands because we need that solid foundation of that root chakra, that safety feeling, and then you can kind of move throughout the body.
Yes, most definitely.
I love that. Okay, the last thing I kind of want to explain is maybe could we go through a couple scenarios of just like, okay, what would you focus on and maybe the order and then
Yes.
we go into the essential oils. Would that be
Yes,
okay?
absolutely. Let's do that.
Okay, so let's say someone comes to you with PMS symptoms, horrible symptoms of PMS, right before they have their cycle. They're moody, they're tired, they're, you know, struggling mentally with brain fog and everything. How would you, and I'm totally putting us on the spot here because we didn't talk about this, but tell me kind of your thought process of what would you clear emotionally as well as on the endocrine system? And we can
Well,
brainstorm.
yeah. Well, for me, I would look at the blood supply to the ovaries,
Hmm.
and I would look at the fallopian tubes. I would look at that there. I would also I would go into the hypothalamus,
Yes.
the pineal, and the pituitary, because a lot of the times, that mood we need to stabilize that mood, but we also may not be sleeping the way that
Hmm.
we need to be sleeping because if we're not getting enough sleep, we're kind of cranky and kind of ornery. So are we getting a
Yes.
lot of that melatonin that we need, that natural melatonin? I also, for me, I think that I would also do the throat chakra,
Yeah. Voice.
um, to express how we're feeling instead of be so angry,
Yeah.
being able to express that and be able to say, you know what, I'm going to be starting my cycle, or I just don't feel good today. I need to lay down instead of
Yeah.
being that bear, right?
Yes.
And so for me, like those are the places that I would check. But I wanted to say it all because I feel like we would check it all. But
You
we
would.
also have those sugar cravings, and that
Hmm.
pancreas is so important because I know for me, it would be like I'd be like the Cookie Monster, and it'd be
Yep.
like nom 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 nom, right? Like give me
Yep.
all the foods. So for me, that's where I would check. But also I know that a lot of people, depending on the person, have a lot of back cramps and a lot of back pain. And
Hmm.
to me, that's showing like in those adrenals of
Adrenals too.
alert, alert, mayday, mayday.
Exactly. And I'm 100% with you on that. So mine would go just like you said, ovaries first. Focus on the ovaries and the uterus first. Go up, check the brain, make sure that pathway is connecting. Pituitary, hypothalamus, pituitary, pineal, make sure all those are there, and then start trickling down the other glands because they're going to have voice problems. They're going to have emotional heart problems. It's probably going to have pancreas and adrenals. Like, and that's kind of how this works is you go the main one
Yeah.
first and then
Mhm.
trickle down the rest of them. And then when an additional emotion or something shows up, make sure that chakra is open and then it clears. So
So
that's
Bree,
going to be that
I want
process.
to just say one quick thing. So
Please.
after you start at the ovaries and you go up and you communicate up to the hypothalamus and the pituitary and the pineal, um, back and forth there. So like if you're moving back down,
Mhm.
per se, down to the throat, and you find that the throat is blocked, there's
Yes.
something there. At that time, you would go back up and you would do the whole communication back up there in the
Again.
brain, all
Hmm.
three of those back, and then come back down and then continue to go, because you
Yes.
need that to open. So you need to communicate up to that hypothalamus and
Yes.
those three there. I
Yes.
just wanted
Thank
to
you.
just verify that. So
That's exactly it. And so when or if something is blocked, and as we trickle down and move throughout the body, go back up if it's blocked, communicate it, and then come back down again. And that's the chasing process. We're going up
yes.
and down and back and forth. And friends, I promise it is so fun to watch. So fun to watch.
Yeah. It was
Um,
great for me
yeah,
with my client, and my client was shocked. She was
yeah,
like, "Oh my gosh,
felt the difference.
she's like, so many of my friends are on hormone therapy and all of these things, and I'm not bagging on that. There is
No,
definitely a need for that. But I also sometimes our hormones can just be out of whack just to be out of whack. They
yes.
just need, they just need a little cleanup crew to come in and help them function the way that they're supposed to.
Exactly. And just fine tune it just a little bit. Any other conditions come to your mind off the top of your head that you see
Uh,
often?
you know, the one, and maybe you were going to bring this up in just a sec, Bree, but
Yeah,
the one question is, let's talk real quick about the vagus nerve and how the vagus nerve can help. Can it
yeah.
help or can it hinder
The
the endocrine
hormones.
system chase? Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. If they are stuck in fight or flight, the things that are going to take priority are survival hormones only. And so it's not going to necessarily be like the hormones needed to create an egg, or something like that for
right,
ovulation.
right.
And that's kind of been my problem is my body gets kind of stuck in that fight or flight, and then it's just not sustainable for ovulation yet, and so I work on that of setting that up. And same thing, like you're not going to absorb your sugars as well. You're not going to have the best calcium and all this stuff from the thyroid. And so it really does hinder a lot of the hormones is when you're in that fight or flight. We part of that rest digest, it's rest digest and communicate, like,
Yeah,
and so
for
it's
sure.
all part of that. And so that would be my opinion is if the vagus nerve is off, your hormones aren't going to be as communicating as effectively.
Yes, I agree.
When you're working on your glands, for me, I like them to feel kind of plump, kind of like you're pushing on like a gummy bear. So you want to be able to feel the edges of it and have it to feel like a little bit of resistance when you push into it. But if it's hard or crunchy or like a deflated balloon, that's going to be kind of telling us to maybe what's going on as well. So kind of pay attention to that too when you're kind of feeling it. We want it to feel nice and plump like you're pushing on a gummy bear is how I prefer to look at it.
Yeah, I love that. I've never thought of a gummy bear, but I really
Yeah,
like that
it's
because
kind of
that's
like a gummy
in my
bear.
mind. I'm kind of like, mm.
Yeah,
So now I'm just gonna think gummy, gummy,
gummy,
gummy
gummy.
bear.
It is. It has like some firmness to it, but you're able to squish it and not like a
Right,
gummy bear on a hot day. We're thinking of
right,
like just the typical gummy bear with a little bit of
right.
bounce to
Not
it.
sticky and gooey
No,
and yuck. Oh,
no.
right.
We
Yeah.
want it to have some bounce. That's how
Little
a
bounce.
healthy gland typically feels like. So,
Beautiful.
all right, we got essential oils and we're good to
We
wrap
do.
up, I think.
Let's talk about the essential oils, and we can make it quick today. There are several essential oils, and I'm just going to go through them um, rather quickly. So if you have a pen, write them down and then do your research on them.
Yes,
We love frankincense.
love it.
When in doubt, pull Frankie out, right? He is the king of oils for a reason. Um, Frankincense is a hormone balancing oil. It helps with estrogen regulation and it's an anti-inflammatory. It also is really, really good for the brow chakra. It's a
Very
really,
good. Yep.
really great one for that. So frankincense is fabulous. Frankincense, you can smell it. You can put it on the bottom of the feet. You can do all of those yummy things if you use doTERRA and you do choose to ingest that, make sure that that's you and you're using a very high quality grade. doTERRA
Yes.
does actually have that availability. The next one I would say is going to be lavender. Who
Mhm.
doesn't love lavender, right? It's
Right.
very calming and soothing. It enhances estrogen while inhibiting an androgen activity. Is that correct? Did I say that
Yeah.
right?
Yep, that's
Inhibiting
right. So
androgen.
it helps us with our estrogen absorption, but it also helps us because estrogen and testosterone, they kind of have a relationship there. So it's going to help the appropriate amount of estrogen to be inhibited without it causing the other hormones to go out of balance. So it's
I love that.
really good for balancing those.
Beautiful. And lavender, you guys, lavender is a great one to help also with sleep. So this one would be a great one to do on the pineal.
Yeah,
Um, then we have rose.
love
This one
rose.
helps with the serotonin in the bodies. And I know I'm going to say this wrong. Is it the neuropeptides?
Yeah, the neuropeptides. Yep, that's
Yay! In
exactly
the
it.
brain, right?
Hmm.
So it's
Yep.
also going to help that brain. It's going to really help out that hypothalamus and that activity there.
And those are like building blocks of the brain, is what the neuropeptides are. So the brain
Yeah.
proteins. Yep.
So you guys right here, we've already said the king, and now rose is the queen of essential
Yes.
oils, right? It's the oil
Yes.
of love. Put it over the heart as well. This one is going to be just a yummy, yummy.
I love it.
Um, rosemary. Could we talk any more about rosemary? If you go to our Instagram page at We Do Feet seminars, right? You guys, we've really done a lot of work on rosemary
We have.
the last couple
It's
times.
kind of been this last, 2 or 3 weeks we've really
Yeah,
been talking about it because it's
right.
a good one. It's a great one for pain and for so many other things.
For our sexual hormones.
Hmm.
Um, it possesses anti-infertility. It's
Hmm.
a strong antioxidant. It is a
Yes,
beautiful rosemary, and it's a cleansing oil,
it is.
right?
Hmm.
It's a beautiful oil. So there's rosemary. That would be a really good one for that. The sacral for like the pancreas area. That
Yes.
I mean, excuse me, the ovaries
Ovaries.
area.
Hmm.
Clary sage. This one is one that's really good for a big variety, like a
Yeah.
really big variety of hormone imbalances, especially estrogen. I do want to put this disclaimer out there. If you are pregnant, please stay away from clary sage.
Yeah. Give
It's
your body a
great.
break. It doesn't need it.
Yeah, it's great for infertility and help to get up to conception.
Yeah.
Once there's conception, wait until you're ready to deliver.
Yeah.
It's one that will help. Contracts, um, it contracts the,
And it's going to really help the hormones at the end as well. And so
yes,
it's good for that process. And so yeah, we
yes.
recommend during infertility and then after.
The last two that we have is thyme,
Mhm.
and thyme is all about improving the progesterone,
Yes.
right, in the body. And then peppermint. Peppermint's all about the buoyant heart. This is one that's really going to help the heart. It will help balance the hormones. It helps balance blood sugar, improves digestion, and it can reduce stress and improve our memory. Who
Yes.
doesn't want help with improving that memory, right?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And so guys can kind of do a combination of those, just like we chase the hormones and the chakras and the emotions and everything through the body. You can stack your oils as well. You can
Absolutely, you
pick
can.
one for each gland and you can layer it and it has this a similar effect.
It definitely does. You could make an endocrine
Roller
roller
bottle.
bottle.
Hmm.
So when you were doing this, you actually could just roll it, on those areas and just flow it that way as well. That would be a great thing as well.
Absolutely. Get a little bit for each gland
Yep.
to help support it. Yep. I think that would
Yes.
be
Yes.
fantastic.
I think
And
it
then
would be
be able
beautiful.
to do it on the right spots is even better. It's just so fun.
Yes.
It's so, so fun.
Yes. Things that make me go,
I know,
right?
right? We think of
Yes.
these and we're like, it all connects in there.
Yes. And it's beautiful. Okay, so before we close up, Bree,
Yes.
we always have some questions. So here are the questions. Are you ready for the day?
Yes. Give it to us.
Okay, so one of the emotions that we talk about is having to feel in control. And
Hmm.
sometimes when we don't feel in control, our body is like, wah, like we kind of feel chaos. Okay,
Yeah.
so I want you guys to think about what is your positive opposite of the word control or the emotion control? What is your positive opposite, Bree?
Mine would be acceptance and flow.
Okay.
Like I need to be
Acceptance and
able
flow.
to flow with it because control actually to me is very soothing. Like it settles me, the idea of like being able to control a situation and stuff. And letting it go scares me. So it's the idea of like acceptance, confidence, and flow is what mine would be.
Beautiful, beautiful. Flow is mine as well,
Hmm.
along with peace.
Yeah, peace. Yes.
Peace. For you listeners and you that are watching out there, my question is this, and I would like you to ask yourself this: how would it feel to have balance and fill in the blank? So for
Yes.
me, it would be, how would it feel to have balance and peace
Hmm.
and flow, right?
Balance,
So,
acceptance, and flow for me. Yes, I love that.
okay, so how would that feel? Breathe that all in and feel those yummy goodness, right?
Hmm.
Um, the next one is, how would it feel to be open to receiving mental, emotional, and spiritual clarity?
I love it. I
Okay, so
love
how would
that.
it feel to be open to receiving? Because we need to be open to receive all of this, right? Um, so how would it feel to be open to receiving mental, emotional, and spiritual clarity? And then the very last one is, how would it feel to know what my inner wisdom is telling me?
Mm,
Because really, the endocrine system to me runs on that inner wisdom,
it
like,
does.
and us listening to our bodies and knowing that communication line of wisdom, of inner wisdom that's going on there.
And being able to trust it. Trust that it's doing the best that it can and it's the messages are going to be received, like and just trusting your body that it's going
Yes,
to work.
yes,
I love that.
yes. Yeah. And I'm hearing we need to give ourselves grace.
Absolutely.
So that's just, I'm just throwing it out there for those of you listeners that may struggle with the control or maybe that perfectionism or things like that. We need to be able to take that deep breath and give ourselves that grace and ourselves that minute
Mhm.
so we can receive that communication throughout the body.
And don't get too overwhelmed. Like I know there are so many things you can do nowadays to help with hormone disruptive things. So like eliminating toxins in your homes and perfumes and things like that. And I get that those things can really help. But again, part of giving yourself grace is just loving on yourself, being patient,
Yes,
making one or two changes, doing a little bit of improvement. Don't feel like you have to like tackle this like head on with no support because that can be very overwhelming. So just do a little bit
absolutely.
at a time, jump on feet, love them, add some oils, be kind to yourself, and your body can handle this.
Absolutely, it can.
I
Yes.
love it. Oh, this was such a fun episode. I'm so
It
glad
was
we did
great.
this.
Yes,
This is so
yes.
good. Okay,
All right. So is it a wrap, my
I
friend?
think
Is it
we're
a
good.
wrap?
I
Okay,
think
I
we
love
got
that.
this. You go out there, rub some feet, make sure you ponder on those questions because it's going to help, and remember to utilize those questions Mandy talked about in order on your clients too. That's going to help them to clear the emotions necessary from the different chakras, but also to help the hormones flow.
Right. Beautiful.
Yay!
All right, friends. Well, I guess we will see you all next week. We're super
Okay,
excited about our next episode, so make sure you tune in.
thank you guys.
All right. See you, Breezy.
Bye.